your groups to come up and share what you came to with the group, with the larger group. We will take notes on all of that and take that to the advisory board that's meeting tomorrow to see what we do, what further steps should be, and what's coming out of that. So, who would like to just come up to the microphone, please, so everyone can hear?
Thanks, Meryl.
I'm going
We owe
to
you
come
big
up
time.
right away so I can remember what we just said. We had a lively debate about how do you harness our energy. And one of the things we talked about was some ways to look at some structure. And then we were going to come back and talk about some more ways. So these are huge, wonderful questions about who we are and how we want to live here together. So we didn't do as much of this as we'd like. We had a couple of specific suggestions about some things to help harness through some structures. One of them is to look at developing a blog of some sort. And somebody suggested table.org so we can have ongoing conversations about what we think, about what we're doing. Harness and what we're doing together and what what's going on with the comparison with us. That's a technology question. Another suggestion was that we form a committee to begin to explore alternative structures, alternatives, roadmaps and structures, maybe about the way that we have organized our leadership within the associate organization, and look at possibilities. I think, again, that's a big question. If we sat down together, we could start to surface some things that could then maybe be in congruence with whatever the congregation does, and would talk about stuff like that at our meetings. A third suggestion was that we look at how we name our communities. Are they really associate communities? Are they associate sister communities? And we didn't talk too much about how to do that. And then we discussed the question of how to support the Chile associate group. And we don't know. Maybe we could get together with other associate groups and talk about what we could do together to support that group.
Sorry, I just took the mic. I was just thinking, let's organize a trip to Chile and so we can learn about divorce sisters and meet there and help each other out. We had a real interesting discussion and a lively discussion. I think there are some big issues here. To me, this is about what does our future look like? When I think of all us, I think of we are all here because we share the same charism. We didn't get this charism from the sisters. We have this charism within us. We will have this charism. We have this whether we're in this community or whether we're not. We are all in this community because we share this charism and because we want to be with others who share this charism. And so that's how I think about the future. If when the sisters' numbers have been diminished and there's more associates than sisters, then I want to look at, some people think, well, if we don't have sisters to associate with, then we won't be here. And I disagree with that. I think we all have this charism, and we're here because we want to share this charism, and we will continue to do that even when the sisters' numbers are diminished. So then that leads me to, if the sisters, we rely on the sisters. I feel like we rely on the sisters for everything. The sisters are going to chapter, and they're going to tell us what the new structure will be. And that's not exactly right. And please know I'm coming out of complete love with what I say, and I don't always say it in the right way. So you're welcome to challenge me, okay? You're welcome to challenge me with what I'm saying, because I may not say it in a way that makes sense to you. But I feel like we rely on the sisters. The sisters pay Peggy's salary. They direct Peggy. They write the check to Peggy. Okay.
But you pay it.
But we pay it. But Peggy has a boss, and it's probably within the sister structure. Okay. And I'm not saying that's bad. I'm saying that that's fine. I mean, it's not. This is just how it is. But what happens when the sisters don't have that structure and they're not paying that paycheck? I think we need to, and that's not even the issue. It's really about, Michelle and I had a nice conversation. She didn't like the word structure. To her, structure means meetings. And I'm like, but this gathering happened because there was a structure in place to call us all here. Somebody sent me an invitation. Somebody developed an agenda. And that is the structure that I mean. And maybe process is a better word. That we need to develop a process so that in the future we'll still be doing this. And what will that process look like is the big question. And then, we have been talking about this for years. I've been an associate since 2005. And we've been talking about this in a variety of ways for years. So one question that Michelle and I discussed is, well, why haven't we done this? Are there some barriers that need to be taken care of first before we can do this? And we don't want it to be hierarchical, because it's not hierarchical if we're doing this as a community. And that the other thing is that we are separate from the sisters. The sisters are vowed, we are not. Associates are separate, but we're interconnected. Sisters, associates, we're interconnected always, everything that we do. It's not that we're separate from the sisters. It doesn't mean they're unequal. It doesn't mean imbalanced. We're interconnected because we all are here for the same reason, for the charism that we share, that we want to share with the world. And I think that we can do this, but we have to think about a process. It's not just going to happen. If we don't, have a structure in place, we won't get together if nobody invites us together. So that's what I would like to see us happen. And I would love to see us discern a group of people that could maybe help facilitate that future visioning and to figure out what have been the barriers and how can we overcome those barriers.
So our group, which has been the same group all weekend, we pretty much all chose to discuss the roadmap structure question. And pretty early on, what came to our general understanding is that back in October of 2012, there was this proposal from the Matrix group for an associate, kind of a proposal to kind of the insider group that's associated with the current leadership of associates. There was this wonderful proposal that was developed, and it was it has to do with new structure. And I believe the Matrix group, there's two associates that are on that Matrix group. Patrick, you're one of them. Four. Okay. I only saw. Oh, I see. Yeah, there's four. Oh, I see them now. Yeah, so there's four associates, and I think all of these associates that are on this Matrix board are here today. Is that correct? Okay. So on that note, I'm gonna turn it over, and she's gonna read this statement. I guess this incremental, what they're thinking of as a proposal of our future structure.
This is the proposal as it was submitted. We believe that the long-term future of our community is one in which membership is not a boundary, but a term of inclusion for different but equal types of commitment and vocational choices. Thus, the issue of different levels of leadership for differing segments of our community will not be an issue. We must take incremental steps toward that end. Therefore, we suggest that the Associate Advisory Board be reconstituted as the associate leadership team, a parallel and equal structure to the province leadership group. All associates will have voice and vote in their leadership selection. Sisters who wish to be included in the process will have voice only in the selection of the associate leadership team. Both sisters and associates could be elected to the associate leadership team, but there is no requirement that a sister must be a member.
So, one thing we can do, I know myself, I want to walk away from today with a copy of that, which was just read, so I can continue to discern on it. However, in our group, what we came up in response to looking at this as a possible structure is threefold. One is that what might be beneficial is to have an umbrella group that's also developed. And when I say umbrella group, a group that's associates and VAL, that there'll be a team that if you will, maintains and ensures there's a constant communication, both spiritually and corporately. And that umbrella team, or that umbrella group, would be like the Maryknoll model, or perhaps the St. Paul model. Another thing that came up is that we would think in this type of structure that they would always have an associate or a consultant, associate as a consultant to the Providence leadership, and then there'd be a VAL as a consultant to the associate leadership. And then finally, we came to the realization as a group that this type of structure is in fulfillment of Vatican II. That this type of structure, those of us that are lay, those as associates, stepping into to a leadership team type structure where we're voting ourselves as a leadership team, this is really a fulfillment. This is a response to what's been asked of us, and out of an outpouring or out as a growth out of Vatican II. What the sisters give up, I think you said it so eloquently, was what? Sister, because someone asked in the groups, like, well, what's the pros and cons? If we go into a structure like this, there's always good that comes out of it, but there's always something you give up. And I can speak as an associate, what I give up is I give up getting to hang out and not be accountable. Like, amen, I love these sisters, and I'm kind of associated with them, and they give me, I get to hang out with them, and I feel like I'm part of a super cool club, and I can participate or not, I can go to this or not. So what I give up is kind of that freedom, but what I gain is an opportunity to step into more meaningful experience and an opportunity to deepen my spiritual maturity through accountability. And then what sisters,
What
yes?
the sisters give us is privilege and control.
So, okay. Anything else to share? No?
This group that was left at our table talked about harnessing the energy from this meeting and the creed. And so we said that we would be taking the creed back to our associate groups to share that with them prayerfully as we tell them also about this meeting. The two videos we saw are crucial to what we learned here, so we like to find a way to get those videos available to every associate and sister in the group. One suggestion was to use a laptop computer. I think you can access these videos online. Some people might need instructions how to do that. Okay. It was suggested that associates continue to get to know more sisters. There's a committee that getting to know you to perhaps make more of an effort in each associate group to participate in those activities, getting to know the sisters and supporting them. Currently, Anna, on her CSJ local notes, points out meetings of like-minded groups. We'd like to see that continue so that associates, but to add what meetings advertised already have associates and sisters attending them. For instance, she might advertise a meeting on earth spirituality, but if she can say that there are 2 sisters and 3 associates committed to going, that might encourage someone else to go because they know they won't be they'll see a familiar face at that meeting. And then we'd like to see a return of the reflection afternoons. I think Mary Kay Christian had these during Lent this last year or the year before, where there's a short talk by an individual or a small group on a spiritual or communion subject, followed by individual and group sharing. Thank you.
Just standing up here and listening to this, there's so many new ideas coming from other people. Surely together we are more. I'm positive of that. We sort of talked about both things, and the idea of structure. If there is a task force that's working on that, and the structure of the sisters is not really clear at this point, that maybe the structure is not the thing that we need to focus on at this time. Although we did get into some talking about ideas for the structuring of the associates, and I'll get to those in a minute. I just wrote these down as we talked about them, and we just went back and forth, so it's going to be a little bit. Okay. It said that whatever the sisters do structurally, we will still be connected. The sisters will be here, and we will be here, and we will be one community, however that looks. That the structures will, as we talk about evolution, that the structures will evolve, that it's more important to live the charism and to live the creed that we're discussing, and that out of that, the structures will evolve. I'm thinking of the early church, how when the apostles were sent out to spread the good word, it wasn't, set up a church and be sure you have a good structure and get your members. That was not the way it was done. But the structure did evolve. We might not all be too happy about that, but it didn't start with the structure. It started with doing the charism. And so I do believe that that will happen. One of our members, we stayed together as a group, talking about the creed, talking about harnessing the energy and how that's done. And that's where we kind of got into the associate groups. And this was a suggestion that I think has been brought up before, is that maybe as associates, even though this commitment, ongoing commitment seems like the last big formal thing that you do, we have to keep our formation going. We can't just say, well, now we're formed and this is it. I know myself, I'm working with some of the associate groups that are being formed. I've learned so much more in the formation of those groups that are being formed than I had when I finished with my own formation. I mean, it's just incredible how that grows. And so I think that's something that we as associates could think of, ways of doing ongoing formation. Sharing of resources. If people have CDs or books or maybe even people who are willing to give talks or whatever, and we know about that, how we can share with other associate groups. And that got into this discussion about having people, maybe expanding the board and having somebody who would be, I don't know really who all, who all is on the board, but somebody that would be able to be like a liaison to the other groups. I think part of the problem is when you find something good that you want to do with your group, it's getting other people, well, how do we find out who else would be interested in that, so that we might do some kinds of things outside of our own associate group with people in other associate groups who are interested in doing the same thing. And making the communication probably would be the structure that we would have to figure out how to do that. Also talking about the sisters that are really not so happy with association in general because they don't really maybe know associates. And we're talking about the getting to know you, but you know that getting to know you right now is with the sisters at NAS. And they don't seem to be the ones that are unhappy. There are wisdom sisters. You know, you go to NAS to get a shot of wisdom. And so that maybe one suggestion was that maybe encouraging sisters who are not familiar with association or who don't have anything to do with associates to mentor a person who wants to look at its association. And that's a wonderful way to learn about it.
We have about less than 15 minutes before we hit noon, and
Okay,
I
on
think
that.
people want to stay longer.
We talked about roadmaps, and we really do want to use the word roadmaps instead of structures. Structure is confining, restricting, whereas roadmaps kind of shows that we're on the move. The one suggestion we came up with was the fact that maybe it would be a good thing as a congregation that we had a little more unification as far as what does it mean to be an associate, consociate, Ohana, or Familia de San Jose. It was brought up that we, as the vowed members, have a constitution acts of chapter that's common to all of us, but each province and vice province and Chile is a little bit different as far as what the term associate means. The other thing was we spent some time talking about the December session of chapter. We had 2 brand new associates in the group, and we just wanted to bring them up to date on why some of this conversation was even going on.
A lot of what we talked about, we addressed totally the first question about harnessing the energy, and a lot of what was shared already is part of what we shared, but there's 2 things I think I'd like to focus on. The first is that we're very grateful for the creed, because we feel that that will be a wonderful conversation starter when we bring it back to our communities, and so we're excited about that. Part of that we spoke about our own gifts and talents, and someone in the group made the observation that she was part of something once where in a group, everyone in the group identified someone else's gifts and talents, brought that to their attention, and how affirming and uplifting that was. So I think that that's something that I would like to bring back to our group as well. And then just to remember that we are already doing it, like Sister Judy always says, and Sean too, you know, you're already doing this. But I think also, for me at least, I'm thinking about maybe bringing back to our group something that we can focus on this year to harness our energy in a particular way. So at the end of the year, we've got something, maybe not tangible exactly, but something that we've come together to do to make a difference in our own little community that might be evidence to us that, yes, we can.
Her last statement really captured a lot of our conversation, so I simply wanted to say that we saw a lot of power in the creed being able to help inform our groups working together, living that charism together, building on the gifts and talents, and that's where we found a lot of energy, and that's where we saw a lot of hope.
Just be very brief,
because lunch is awaited. Our basic focus was on the need for structure. Oh, right here. Our conversation revolved around the need for structure or not. And what we decided was we don't want to overthink it. We don't want to overcomplicate it, because what we heard in the statements that our 3-year commitment people made was about the mission. Nobody said anything about the structure and how they want to work on the structure and how they want to make more rules and make more committees and subcommittees and task forces and steering committees and so forth. It's all about the mission. And the structure should serve the mission and not vice versa. So however it comes out with congregational chapter and what they put in place, that's going to be about mission, and that's what we want to be about as well.
Okay, we thought about the roadmaps and the structures and got into the plan semantics. Is it a committee? Is it a group? Is it a whatever? So we figured it's kind of like we indicated, it's the mission, and that's what it's about. So we looked at, obviously we had some ideas about changing some of the words in the creed, but we did appreciate the existence of the creed and the fact that we actually have that to go back to our groups with. Okay? It's not going to explain to everybody that doesn't get it, that doesn't have the charism, what it's all about, but for those of us that do, it's our heart. It speaks our heart. So our question was, is how do we harness that and how do we spread that around? And what we found is the pronouns got in the way. We, sharing the stories, just like we heard in the film, discussing the creed with our groups and within our communities, whether it's the associate community, whether it's I don't know, there's too many communities. But embracing and living the charism, that's enough. That's the we. And then we came out, well, what can I do? Well, I think it's really basic. First, start out listening. We have to listen to others. The other one was that when we are present in this moment, all the rest is automatic. Living the charism is all we know when we're in this moment. So that was a really big point, how do we get to this moment? And then it's a decision that each of us makes. There was a story that was shared about you can't walk down the hall without making everybody smile, or at least saying kind to them. It's a decision that we make to behave in a particular manner. It proves to others that we have a charisma. And then, with 7 years now, and I've been an associate, and finally somebody at work came up and says, "What are you doing? You have this. How do you do that?" And I was like, wow. You know, it does work. It does infiltrate my life and then goes around me. So.
Thank you, everyone. We will take all of that back and run it through the structure to see what we do. I believe we have a closing prayer. Do you need the PowerPoint? Okay. Yeah. And we want to thank everybody for taking a weekend and coming and being part of this. It's been very powerful and enriching. And I think we did a lot of good work, even though it may feel like it's probably feels like it's incomplete to some people, but it's really a process, and I think we've made a huge leap. And I think you're going to see that as things come out and we move forward with it, that we have made a lot of progress, even though it feels like there was no closure and we didn't have the answers, but I think we've made a lot of progress. Peggy, did you have anything you wanted to, where's Peggy?
People who want to say something.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was going to say, is there anybody else who needs to say?
come from a structure.
As part of the structure, we're up here. Peggy is the vice chair of the advisory board too. We just want to say thank you to all of you for being here. I think it's been a wonderful, challenging experience. But we're up here to say thank you to Sister Sean and Michelle here. So,
thank you to the committee who worked on the table decorations and the ambiance and the prayer, because there were a lot of behind-the-scenes people who helped pull this off. And thank you to them. Yes, all the people on that committee, please stand up.
Yes.
Well, in closing, let us pray together. Sacred and rooted